Has this ever happened before in Canadian history, where a government has secured a majority in large part because it got enough opposition MPs to defect?
I don't think we've ever seen a majority government that's come together in quite this way.
We've never seen anything like this in Canadian parliamentary history.
Not to this extent.
As in, this new Liberal majority wasn't strictly the will of the people via an election. It was cobbled together in a meaningful way after voters voted.
Mark Carney is saying to Canadians, your vote does not count, that he will overpower the decision that you made through dirty backroom deals that give him unrestrained power to raise your taxes and increase your costs.
It feels like what critics like opposition leader Pierre Poilievre are getting at is that Mark Carney has just effectively cheated his way to a majority government. Those people are wrong, but in a particular way, not wrong. And I'll explain what I mean. When Mark Carney's Liberals claimed their election night win almost a full year ago today, it was a win with a catch.
Canada, your next government will be a Liberal minority government.
A minority that was very narrowly a majority. Here was the final seat count, the important bit being the Liberals winning in 169 ridings. Enough to win the night, but if they had won just 3 more seats from any party, that would have made 172 out of a possible 343, which is majority territory. 50.1% of seats in the House of Commons. Close, but no cigar. And the Liberals would have been excruciatingly aware of how they fell just short.
When you're a few seats shy, you try to figure out, well, how is it we can get to a majority government so that we can advance our agenda?
And so it began.
I just got a text from Chris d'Entremont, who tells me that he is joining the government caucus. Michael Maw, Conservative Member of Parliament, now Liberal Member of Parliament.
Alberta MP Matt Genereux has joined the Liberal Party.
Nunavut MP Lori Idlout has decided to cross the floor.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has confirmed that longtime Conservative MP Marilyn Gladu has joined his party.
Now, maybe you counted 5 defections there, but the way this actually shook down was a little more complicated than 169 plus 5 equals 174. Therefore, didn't they cross into majority territory a long time ago? Because don't forget, over the last 5 months, the Liberals also lost 3 MPs. Chrystia Freeland left, Bill Blair left, and one of the Liberals' election night wins was nullified by the Supreme Court after a legal challenge. All of which is to say, up until now, basically, the Liberals were off by 1. So the most recent by-elections were pivotal. They just held 3 of them, and the Liberals swept all 3.
Mark Carney and the Liberal Party have secured a majority government. It is an extraordinary moment for the Liberals, who more than a year ago were all but dead politically with a different leader.
So for months now, Pierre Poilievre has argued this is kind of like highway robbery, securing a majority by stealing it.
He is trying to manipulate his way through backroom deals to get that majority.
So the first thing to say is that everything we've laid out so far, MPs crossing the floor, switching teams effectively, even after their constituents voted them in as blue team, now all of a sudden they're red team, that's allowed. Because technically in Canada, we elect people, not parties.
Each riding has candidates and they represent various parties, but at the end of the day, you're putting an X beside a person's name, not a party.
So there's no obligation when, for example, voters elected Marilyn Gladu as a Conservative that she remain a Conservative. Because in theory, voters last year elected a 60-some-year-old professional engineer with a decade of political experience. And despite swapping her blue hat for a red one, she's still all of those things.
There's no mention in the Constitution of party switching, just as there is no mention of political parties themselves. A core principle of responsible government is that MPs must remain free to change their minds, oppose their party leadership, or withdraw confidence from a government. So restricting party switching by law could undermine this principle and, by extension, parliamentary democracy in itself.
So say it with me once again. We elect people, not parties. Except, do we?
The Liberals will do a much better job for us.
I'm voting Conservatives.
The Conservatives would definitely tackle the matters a lot better.
And I can't vote Conservative because they're going to put us out of a job and stuff.
Or Liberal.
Local races are one thing, but in federal politics, I think this is true of most people. In practice, we do think more about parties, right? Party leaders, party platforms, much less so individual MPs. Do you even know who your local MP is? Props if you do.
When you talk to political strategists, they will tell you that ultimately the candidate really accounts for a pretty small percentage of the vote.
So voting in a Conservative only to see your riding flip Liberal is of course going to be seen and felt by some voters as a kind of betrayal. And you can see how that plays out. This is the fate of floor crossers over the last 20 years. These circle endpoints are the MPs who switched teams only to get voted out. These rectangular endpoints, the MPs who, perhaps at least in part, saw the writing on the wall and quit without even taking a stab at re-election. Only these three MPs, Belinda Stronach, Leona Alislev, and Jenica Atwin, crossed the floor and survived their re-election campaigns. But even then, their political careers didn't exactly last forever. And what makes the most recent series of defections we're talking about, Conservatives and one NDPer turning Liberal, granting the Liberals a majority, is the fact that this creates such a seismic swing in the government's political power.
Whether it's something about the powers that police are given in this country, the rules around immigration, the treatment of refugees, the limits to what we can say online, all of those things can be decided in Canada's Parliament, in the House of Commons, along with the Senate. And now Mark Carney can get those things through more quickly without having to get some buy-in from opposition parties.
As the Prime Minister travels throughout the world to try and get trade agreements, etc., that he's able to say that he has the confidence to be able to get those agreements passed through the House in a timely manner. And so from a trade and economic point of view, that's another important incentive to have a stable majority government.
So is it cheating to pull a switcheroo on voters by switching teams after getting voted in? And by extension, is Carney's majority a bit of a sham? Technically, not at all. And I'll point out that plenty of Liberals over the years have crossed over to the Conservatives. And in the same way we don't mark an X beside parties on our ballots, we also don't really get a direct say in whether we want a majority or minority government. But two things can be true at once. It's not technically cheating, but it's understandable why to some people it might feel like cheating. Because what is true about all of this is that whenever politicians change election results in between elections, that is, in a very real way, putting more power in their hands and less in yours.